This area is done at this phase. We are going to focus now on this area. I want to have an overall effect. I want to add all those values before, and then I'm going to blend them in, erase the highlights, add details where need be, and focus on the outline. I'm going to blend in again, erase the highlights, and then I'm going to define a few details if I have to. I'm using the 2H lead this time because I want the line here to be very thin. I don't want to add surfaces this time. I don't want to have that much value. Let me just adjust the angle. This should work nicely. And I'm going to hold it away from the tip so I can have that nice line, that arched line that I'm looking for. And I'm going to use short strokes, and in some cases I'm going to combine them with longer strokes. I want to have gaps between these strains, but I also want to have texture. So I'm going to add these lines wherever I can, but I also leave gaps between them because I'm going to blend them in, and I'm going to erase those gaps so I can define them better. And I'm also going to redraw a few of these details afterwards. So it's alright if you add a little pressure every now and then. So you can have a darker line at times, lighter lines when you need them. This might look messy at times because when you're drawing shorter hair, you're going to work in phases. It's not like curly hair when you can work on one curl, make it look good, and move to the other. You're going to work in phases, and that usually has a phase or two in which things don't look like you want them to. They're going to look bad, but you have to push forward. You will have to move on, and even though it might not look how you want it to, you're going to have to continue the drawing because you will pull through and you will make it look better. It's important to be perseverant, or it's really hard to talk while I'm drawing in real time. I don't draw mechanically or like a machine. I do it from gut, as some would call it. I'm using my mind, I'm concentrating, and I'm thinking where to add lines. I'm constantly checking the reference photos. So you might think drawing is relaxing. It is when you are just moving your hand on the paper, but when you're thinking, when you know you have something to do, when you have a subject you have to follow, you have a reference you have to follow, then you are using your mind, and it's exhausting at times. So it's hard for me to talk and explain it sometimes, talk and draw at the same time. So you'll have to forgive my occasional mistakes. So I've added this wave to the hair because after we're going to blend that in, that will disappear slightly, but then we're going to come back with details and redo the entire flow of that area. So we are basically creating two different layers of value that will work together in the end. That's something you want to have in your drawing to give it depth, and the viewer will recognize that. His brain-eye coordination will pick up that detail, and he might be intrigued without knowing why. So as you can see, I have a little light patch here and very little value surrounding the ear. That's because of the highlight and because of the hairstyle. As we are going to blend in with the Tortillon, we will define the area surrounding the ear and add some details to it so we can create a difference and some contrast between the ear and the hair. I'll just zoom out a bit so that won't happen again. It's important for you to see what I'm doing, so I'll have to pay more attention to that. I'm adding a few lines over the head so I can use that to blend it in after I'm done adding these base values. What you can do to help you cover the flow of the hair, because even if it's short, it still has a flow to it, you could make some lines to help you get the feel of the flow. You see that they go down, and then from this point they are oriented towards the back of the head. So we are going to try and give it that direction. That's why we are adding these lines. Don't worry if they are not that well blended in, they will be. That's why we are using the Tortillon and the 2H pencil. When using the 2H, it is very easy to blend different hatching styles and not worry about messing up the texture, because if you mess up the texture you can always flatten it, blend it, and then adjust it with a harder, or I mean a softer lead. Just want to add a few more surfaces of value. I use the word surface because I am not actually doing any hatching. I'm just putting down lines on the paper to cover the surface with lines. And that's what you want to do for this hairstyle. Usually when drawing, I don't talk. I listen to music or let a movie play in the background to have some sort of distraction from time to time, because you do focus on certain areas where you are starting out, but after a time your hand gets used to the movement, your hand-eye coordination and your brain coordination becomes so good that it's basically a reflex and a routine. It can repeat itself for a vast amount of time, and you'll want something to distract you at times. For example, when you have to hatch a surface, you have to add value to a large surface. You're going to want to listen to some music while you move that hand like a robot for a good half an hour, 3/4 of an hour. But for this situation, when you're making hair strains, you want to pay attention to the flow you're following, because that will give the drawing in the end its feel. So I don't recommend listening to music at this phase, especially when you are close to the end, because that's when you have a tendency to rush things. I myself have experienced that as a beginner, and I have listened to a lot of music while drawing, and that wasn't so good because it distracted my attention when I had to make details. And through my mistakes, I've learned that it's okay to listen to music when you are doing surfaces, large surfaces, but when you are doing portraits or have an area on a portrait that has a flat value and you have a gray background, for example, and you have to add that gray, you are going to want to listen to something to help you out. So that's the whole point of it. You want to listen to music when you have something mechanical to do, something really boring that doesn't necessitate, that doesn't require your concentration. But when you have details like this, like hair, like a face, or clothes folding, then you want to pay attention to what you are doing. And as you can notice, I'm nearly done. And after this few lines at the end, I'm going to blend it in and then use again the 2H pencil to add the final details and the eraser to add the highlights, and then maybe blend in again, and now as you see here the lines tend to go down, so I want to do that. I want to go down and add a slightly darker value, still using short lines. Let me zoom out so you can see the overall think. So there it is.
If you like this video, please do me a huge favor and give it a thumbs up, and also make sure to subscribe to this channel to get access to even more cool lessons. And lastly, if you want to get more free step-by-step tutorials, go to mydrawingtutorials.com/bonus and sign up for my free newsletter. Or you can simply click the link below and just enter your email on the new page that pops up. So once again, just click the link below, enter your email, and get access to all my free lessons.